Hello, everyone. I am starting a new series today. I'm going to take a deep dive into the fourth root fundamental of mental, emotional, spiritual healing, wellness, skill development. And if you've seen the previous video, you might know what the fourth root fundamental is. If you don't and haven't seen that, then the fourth root fundamental is our beliefs, our belief systems, and really the fundamental there is to take a deep look at one's own belief systems and to find what is causing suffering, what is really causing ourselves more suffering, and what is possibly a very positive belief that is alleviating suffering and making life happier, more peaceful, and more manageable. And so beliefs themselves are extremely powerful. And the very interesting thing about beliefs is they can become automated and we can lose awareness to those beliefs and how they are affecting our lives. Beliefs are very much at a very deep level of programming within human beings. Humans tend to be very similar to computers in some ways, and we are very programmable. And that can happen for a number of reasons, including past trauma, indoctrination into different belief systems, and overall life experience that can lead to just the default mind network, this idea that we have sort of operating systems happening within our minds and our brains to allow us to ascertain our reality around us and make quick decisions in a functional world, that those beliefs become part of that default mind network. And they can be positive in some cases, perhaps, although when you start to lose awareness of what is going on underneath the surface, I don't think any lack of awareness is ever tending towards the best result. You want to be aware as much as possible of yourself and of all things, because my belief is that the intended purpose of our lives in general is to become more aware. And so awareness is always fundamental to this journey that we're on. However, there are beliefs that are automated that are extremely negative and damaging. And it's important to take a look at and locate and find those beliefs and uncover them and change them, discard them, do what needs to be done to create a happier, peaceful, more effective life for yourself. And I would now go into categorizing these beliefs into two main camps. And I'm going to be showcasing how these beliefs become automated and just kind of accepted as fact through showing popular quotes that are out there. And there's a lot of daily quotes and things like that I'm seeing on social media now that people post. And you can see it's kind of this idea that these are wise statements, and not all of them are actually. Some are, some aren't, and some require a much deeper dive into the way in which you interpret them, because interpreting some of these quotes in certain ways can lead to far more pain and suffering and ineffective relationships, and then interpreting a certain quote in a different way could lead to a very effective use of that. And so we're going to be taking a deep dive. There's probably hundreds of quotes out there. I've amassed a good collection so far. We're going to go one by one. So identifying ego can be really tricky, and we're going to discuss ego much more in the future to come, because it's a tricky concept in that there have been some notable psychiatrists, psychologists, and people within the mental health field throughout history, including Freud and Jung and these guys, that have used the word and possibly in different ways than I'm going to. I'm going to make a very quick definition here that ego is a state of mind and attitude that is geared towards always being in a competitive or comparative state of existence, and always completely consumed with either the past or the future. The ego is not really, it isn't capable of being present in the actual moment. And so the ego is always causing suffering. And we're going to see how that, what that implies, and how those concepts are, pertinent with these quotes that we're going to be bringing up in these videos. So this is kind of the opener to that, and then I'm going to start with the first quote, and I'm going to, in some cases, have an unpopular point of view that other people may not agree with, and I'd love to have a deeper discussion on how I've arrived at the places I've arrived at. And one of the number one things and driving forces that is going to be a part of this perspective look into these common quotes is the idea of ego, and to not allow ego to be in charge, and not to allow ego to be the attachment base, especially for any type of beliefs or convictions. Okay, we are going to start the quote series and the deep dive into the fourth fundamental of mental, emotional, spiritual skill development of beliefs with this quote here. As you can see in the background, we've got a notable celebrity, a very famous person here, Pierce Brosnan, presumably adding validity, veracity, weight to this statement so that you are more likely to adopt it as truth, which makes this quote all the more concerning in the way it's presented here, because the quote is false, completely rooted in ego, and not going to lead to any positive outcomes in your life if you adopt this way of thinking. To understand why that is, we have to look at 3 root fundamentals of love. 3 root fundamentals were outlined in a video prior to this, and they are, in a short outline, they are the poet's root, which is connection to others, connection to our world, even connection to anything that we love, is rooted in a cohesive, interconnected awareness that some may call God if you are religiously based in thought. Myself being less institutionally religiously based, I call it the awareness of the universe, the great spirit, whatever else it is. And so this would negate that altogether, because our connections to other people that we feel that cannot be explained with language itself are not controlled by ourselves. And so to say to love someone is nothing is truly to say that there is no God. To be loved by someone is something. To love someone who loves you is everything. Places a conditional format on love, a completely conditional structure. And so, again, it does not fit with the root fundamentals of love, especially number 2, which is compass root, liberation. Again, the quote is, true authentic love neither controls nor confines, it only liberates. That is Maya Angelou's quote. Best quote I have ever heard when it comes to love. And so, explaining love anyway. And so this is completely counter to that. And, to kind of delve further into that, and I explained this in that video, things like loyalty, things like sacrifice, other aspects that we may attribute to love are not love itself. Love is not actually dependent upon loyalty. Love is not dependent upon sacrifice. Love is not dependent upon those things. They are intersection points that may intersect with love, but are not what love is. And that is a misconception by a lot of people. Love can be expressed to people who are awful people, honestly, who have terrible characters, who behave in awful and toxic ways. It does not mean that we cannot express love to them, and it does not mean that that love that we express is worthless. It, in fact, is not worthless at all, and if we are consistent enough at it and good at suppressing and mitigating our own egos, you will find that it has a powerful effect on the world around us and what we manifest in others and ourselves. So love is just not conditional. And true, authentic love, because it is about liberation, directly is a causal effect to the conditional, the non-conditional aspect of love. Anything that becomes conditional within love is actually not love and is therefore something else. Now, loyalty may be conditional. Sacrifice may be conditional. It depends, but love itself is not. And if you are experiencing unrequited love, if you are experiencing a sense of insecurity, a lack of self-confidence, a lack of self-esteem, and those things, and then you take this quote as fact, you will find yourself digging a much deeper hole into a negative state of mind. This is very damaging, especially to people who are vulnerable to those ways of thinking. It does not make you any less if you do not experience reciprocation from someone else, and yet you have the feeling of love towards them. It does not indicate that whatsoever. And then it becomes a philosophical, possibly metaphysical discussion about what is going on with our emotions and thoughts, and are we possibly even operating at a radio transponder modeling of the world. Basically, the consciousness is not contained in our minds, and that people may land within the same frequencies as us sometimes and may not at other times. And how does that all operate? That is going to be too big for this discussion here. What I will say is that the number one reason for choosing a belief should be, does it make your life better? Does it make the world better, a better place? Does it bring peace and happiness to your life? This quote here will do none of those. It is not a good quote. And so I have my encouragement would be to look at this, look at the three root fundamentals of love, and also understand that this is based in ego. And again, ego is something that's going to be brought up again and again with a lot of these quotes and in general around beliefs, and that these two camps of beliefs are separated by this idea of ego and non-based ego beliefs. And so this one is completely rooted in ego, completely conditional, and feeds a part of ourselves that is either going to create some sort of suffering or makes us feel like we're in a very special group and therefore superior to others. And so ego is always comparative, always focused on the past or the future, and can never be truly just present in the moment. And something about love is it's always completely present in the moment and requires nothing. So we will be continuing on with other analysis of quotes here shortly, and hopefully this was somewhat illuminating.